Hello, I'm Dr. Brand Gibson, and we're back for the Be Unhackable book club. Today is day 20. And the idea is I want to help you take that next step. So we've gone through two key pieces here. We've gone through the first two components of the unhackable circle. And just a reminder, you got flawless idea anatomy, basically the way to create a perfect idea. And number two was deliberate magnetic focus, how to keep from getting distracted and so forth, so you can actually focus on what you need to accomplish. And now we're going to actually help you become 5 times more effective at doing what you want to do by helping you get into flow. So that is the idea. So this is optimal human performance. Flow is where the individuals actually function at the highest level. And to start out with, we're on day number 20, optimize your performance using characteristics. And what I'm going to do is let you listen to Kerry first, because he actually goes through the 8 pieces of this in a very effective manner. So we'll do that, and then I will be back with you here momentarily.
Hey everybody, it's Kerry Oberbrunner. We are in the Unhackable 30-day book launch. Today's day 20. Great to have you with us. Day 20 is all about optimize your performance. And we are on the topic of how do you become unhackable in work and life. And if you're not sure what a hack is, it's when someone or something gains unauthorized access to a system or a computer. But we know that in today, 2020 or 2021, we know that we wake up with the best intentions, and yet we feel like our day has been hacked. How many of you feel like your day's been hacked, or your brain has been hacked, or your life's been hacked? Well, how do you become unhackable? It really comes down to 3 things. It comes down to idea, focus, and flow. And those 3 things, idea, focus, and flow, I'm going to give you a chart here so you can see what I'm talking about. But it comes down to idea, focus, and flow. And in the first few days, we talk about flawless idea anatomy. How do you create ideas that are unhackable? And then we talked about deliberate magnetic focus, which is all about how do you create such focus in your life that you can essentially, like a laser, burn a hole through all your obstacles. And then lastly, we're talking about flow, which is the optimal state of human performance. And you might say, Kerry, what is flow? Well, I'll tell you what flow is. Over the next few days, we're going to get into it. Flow is where certain neurochemicals are released inside your brain. We're going to talk about that. But you actually become 500% more productive. Can you imagine that? Now, you've probably been in flow before. This is where you might be in a deep conversation with someone, but the time goes like that, and maybe 5 hours pass without you even realizing. Maybe you were talking to a friend, and the flow is just right there. Or maybe you've started focusing on a certain project and lost track of time. That's where you get into flow. And I'm going to talk today about different characteristics of flow. In fact, there's eight characteristics of flow. Again, if you'd like to join the book club, it's absolutely free. Unhackablebook.com is where you can pick up a copy, or on Amazon, Audible. Right now, the Kindle is $1.99 just for a few more days. So you can grab that. It's the #1 book on Kindle in 6 different categories at the moment. But let's talk about the first few characteristics. The first characteristic of flow is called total absorption. And total absorption is where you essentially aren't worried about the future. You're not thinking about the past. You're in what's called the deep now. The deep now. This is where you are absolutely present. And what's cool is that when you're in flow, you're not thinking about anything else. You're not thinking about what you did yesterday and how you were wrong. You're not worried about the future. You're just totally absorbed in the moment. And we have a shirt in the Igniting Souls tribe called Show Up Filled Up. Today I'm wearing the Unhackable shirt. But we have a t-shirt called Show Up Filled Up, and that really emphasizes flow. Let's get into number two. Number two is extreme focus. You might say, Carrie, give me an example. Captain Sully, Miracle on the Hudson. You might remember that story, but Captain Sully was literally had extreme focus. In fact, Katie Couric said to him, "Were you worried? Did you did you know?" He said, "Did you pray?" Katie Couric said that. He said, "No, I didn't pray. I figured the 155 people behind me had that covered." In other words, he was absolutely just focused on landing the plane. So he was in flow. Tower control was shouting at him. They were telling him to go to LaGuardia, and he said, "I'm going into the Hudson." The third one, as I mentioned, is time dilation. And the reason why time gets messed up when you're in flow is because your prefrontal cortex shuts down, where your prefrontal cortex is essentially where your brain keeps track of time. And what happens is time dilation, where sometimes time slows down, like a freeze frame effect. If you've ever been, they talk with a lot of times Olympians, snowboarders, and they say literally they can see people when they're spinning around and doing rotations. They're so focused that it's called transient hypofrontality. Transient means temporary. Hypo is the opposite of hyper, and frontality is the part in the brain where it happens. And when you're in flow, you literally have this time dilation where you no longer keep track of time. The next one, number four, is vanishing sense of self. This is seen in the movie Dead Poet Society. I don't know if you remember that, but if you've ever seen that movie with Ethan Hawke, Robin Williams, it's a vanishing sense of self when you're in flow, which means that the inner critic shuts down. You stop judging yourself. You stop analyzing yourself. When you're in flow, you're simply focused in the moment. You're not saying, how am I coming off? How am I sounding? How am I looking? What are people thinking? And as a result, because the editor shuts down, the judge shuts down, you actually accomplish much more. You're much more productive because you're not creating and judging at the same time. You're simply creating. Wouldn't that be cool? Have you ever had that? Number six, shift in brain waves. Shift in brain waves. Again, all this is talked about in the book Unhackable. And this comes from a researcher named Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, a Hungarian. Stephen Kotler has also done a lot of writing on this topic. But no one's really put it together in these three streams: idea, focus, and flow. There's books on flow, there's books on focus, there's books on idea creation, but really where the three come together is idea, focus, and flow. And that's where you become unhackable. And so there is a shift in your brain waves. You start at the brain waves of beta, okay? And I'm going to get here, number six. In fact, I'm going to read this right for you here, okay? So you start with what's called the struggle phase, right? The struggle phase. So to get into flow, you actually need to struggle, which is very unique because a lot of people don't struggle anymore in their lives. They try to make their lives too comfortable, too easy, so they never get into flow. You actually need struggle. You need what we call stretch, but not snap. Too much struggle and you're anxious and you're worried and you have that anxiety. Too little stretch and you're bored. You want what they call the flow channel, where it's stretch but not snap. And there's a lot of our coaches watching. Carolyn's here, Michelle's here, we have Kelly here. They're all our certified unhackable coaches. So check them out. They're awesome. Then you move into what's called the release phase. The release phase is where you get into what's called alpha brain waves. So you have struggle, but then you have release. And essentially, you let your mastery take over. Then you move into what's called the flow phase, which is a theta or gamma. Now, theta is like monks. meditating. I mean, it's pretty crazy. And gamma spike is where people have eureka moments where they come up with discoveries, this type of thing. And then you move into what's called flow, which I mentioned. And then lastly, most people skip this phase, and that's why I struggle with this one. But I've learned to get better at it. Actually, I've learned to get a lot better at it. It's the recovery phase, which is called the delta brainwaves. And unless you get into the recovery phase, you won't be able to get into flow again. And that's why some people, they keep burning out, because they keep trying to get into flow. But you actually need to go through all 4 phases. Okay. And then number 7, we get into what's called the shortened gap to mastery. Very cool. This is all in chapter 20 because it's day 20. And we're talking about the flow characteristics and the shortened gap to mastery. So I don't know if you remember that, but that's in the Matrix when Neo essentially gets plugged with, or not plugged, he gets download. It's called accelerated learning. This is where he essentially gets downloaded with the Kung Fu program. Now we look at that in a movie and we say, isn't that cool? Isn't that cool? It's fiction. Wouldn't that be awesome? It's actually true. If you look at DARPA, just Google this, DARPA, which is the Defense Department, they have actually shortened the gap to mastery for snipers by getting them into flow. So this isn't just fictional anymore. If you start Googling accelerated learning, you're going to see like this is legit. This is legit stuff. And you can imagine how powerful this is. Imagine that. If you really become unhackable, you can go to work on Monday and you could sleep in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and get done more than the person who goes to work all 5 days and crushes it because you're in flow. You're 500% more productive. It's unbelievable. And then lastly is number 8, which is large amounts of neurochemicals are released. And what's interesting is that all the chemicals like speed, heroin, cocaine, these are all artificial attempts to reproduce what's already happening naturally in inside your brain. So it's very interesting. It's an artificial attempt to try to reproduce what God has already put inside your brain, called neurochemicals. So folks, I hope you were encouraged today. We really broke down what are the characteristics of flow so you can now more easily identify them. Here's what's crazy. If you want to take a free assessment, you can go to unhackablebook.com, click on assessments, and you can actually take the flow trigger assessment and see how much of your life is built around flow. So folks, I hope you have a blast. Tomorrow's day 21. Keep showing up filled up in your own life. Keep becoming unhackable. God's created you with a big boon, which is like your deepest desire, greatest ache, truest longing. And the way that you're going to achieve that is through becoming unhackable. Take care. We'll see you.
So as you can see, there's a huge amount of information in chapter 20 or in day 20, where you literally talk about total absorption, extreme focus, time dilation, vanishing sense of self, optimal high performance, shift in brain waves, shortened gap to mastery, and release of large amount of neurochemicals. So if you could control that completely, can you imagine how much stronger and how much more effective you would be at any of the tasks you're working on? Well, that's kind of what we're doing. That's exactly what this is supposed to help you do. And over the next several days, we're going to go into those a little bit more depth to help you really understand how you can go from the struggle where you're trying to figure out what's going on, and we can put you into flow and then help you know how to recover so you can go back into flow each and every day and continue to function at the highest level. So we're basically trying to turn you into high-level Olympic athletes in whatever activity you're trying to work on in your boon. So in doing that, you're probably going to need this book. You're going to need the Unhackable book. You can get it for free. I actually purchased it already for you. All you've got to do is go to unhackablechoices.com and we'll tell you how to get there. You also can take the assessment that you talked about in that same group, that same Facebook group. You could actually take the assessment for free. And if you would like, I could actually walk you through it and help you understand it. So you can take the assessment, both the Unhackable assessment and the Flow Trigger assessment, and you can get the free book in the unhackablechoices.com or the Be Unhackable book club. They both go to the same place there in Facebook. This is Dr. Brent Gibson, and this is day number 20. And it is now time for you to be unhackable so that you can reach your goals, live your dream, and enjoy the extraordinary life that you were born to live. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow.